Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Well, here we are. I'm already chit-chatting with our guest, and I'm very, very excited. First of all, I just want to wish everybody a very, very happy new year. It's got to be a better year than it was last year for everyone. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed and just work together to hopefully have a more peaceful and happy year. Anyways, hello to Gordon, hello to Jack. If it wasn't for Jack and Gordon, we wouldn't be here either, because they're the ones that make us look good. And our guest, because I'm driving down here, Interstate 84, on the highway. I see the big sign, which I see all the time. Super Attorney Timmy Moynahan.
Hey.
How are you,
Good,
Timmy?
thank you. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great.
Very nice to be with you.
Well, thank you very much. I'm thrilled to have you. Okay, just explain to us before we get into the meat of the show. Super lawyer, 2009 to 2012. What constitutes a super lawyer?
Well, that's a hard one, but in this case, what it means is that I have been selected by my peers to fit into a category that's entitled super. I don't know who came up with that designation.
I'm impressed.
But I suppose it means that people, other lawyers in the state of Connecticut, assessing the performance of other lawyers, of their peers, decided that I was worth that designation. And so there are a couple of others that I know of in the area. There may be some that I don't, but it's an honor, and I'm certainly pleased at this stage of my career to have it.
Well,
or at any stage.
At any stage. But I was going to talk to you about that. You've been practicing law for how long in the state of Connecticut? Well, city of Waterbury, actually.
Well, that's a good question. I got out of law school in June of 1964. I took the bar exam. Let's see, went to work for Senator Tom Dodd, Chris Dodd's father, as co-chairman of Citizens for Dodd for the state of Connecticut. Got the results in August that I had passed the bar.
Congratulations.
That's 1964. Continued to work for Senator Dodd and open up my a small office, because I knew in November I had committed to go into the United States Coast Guard. Reported to Cape May in November. And was in for 6 months, and then came back to resume the practice of law in, that would have been in, let's see, March, April of...
65.
65, yeah.
So you've been practicing law a very, very long time.
Long time. It seems like yesterday. I can remember coming back and thinking, well, I'll really know what I'm doing after I was practicing for 5 years. And that seems like yesterday, and I'm not so sure I knew what I was doing after 5 years, and sometimes I wonder if I know what I'm doing now, even though I'm a super lawyer.
You are a super lawyer. Has the criminal change? Now, you're a criminal lawyer, or explain to me what you are.
No, far more than that.
Okay.
I'm a trial lawyer.
Okay.
Meaning that, yes, over the years and even to the present time, I have many criminal cases. And I don't like to call them criminal cases. It sounds like hair splitting. It sounds like semantics. But I like to think of them, I like to think of myself in that sphere as a constitutional lawyer. Meaning that I'm representing a fellow citizen who has been accused, not convicted. So the accusation is a far cry from proof beyond a reasonable doubt, who's been accused of having committed a crime. And it's my obligation in representing that citizen, that fellow citizen, to the best of my ability to see to it that his constitutional rights are protected. So yes, he's been accused of a crime, or she has, or crimes. So in that sense, it's criminal law. But really what it implicates is the whole panoply of constitutional rights, from the First Amendment to the Second to the Fourth to the 14th and so forth. So that's the way I look at what they call the criminal law. I call it constitutional law. I think it's more accurate. And then I do a lot of civil litigation. I do an awful lot of accident cases and personal injury. The law calls those tort cases. Tort's a word that comes from the French. It means a civil wrong. And so if somebody has been damaged, or at least allegedly so, as a result of somebody's negligence, and they can't resolve the case, which of course I'm involved in as well. If somebody comes to me, I try to negotiate a settlement or take it to mediation. If all of that fails, we go to court, we litigate, meaning we take it to trial before a judge, most often a jury, and look for damages as the law provides under what's called civil litigation.
Okay, so
and I do commercial litigation. So really what goes
Well,
to court...
commercial litigation, okay, now you've been
That would
so
be-
explicit in explaining it. What do you mean?
Well,
I'm not going to come to you if I'm buying a house. I mean,
Yes, well, you wouldn't come to me, but you would come to my law firm because,
Okay.
because I have 2 lawyers.
there's many, okay, that's another thing you have to
that do
explain.
everything from simple house closings to shopping plazas to complicated real estate transactions. I do not do that transactional kind of work. But if there's a dispute in the context of a real estate transaction, and that dispute cannot be resolved amicably outside of court and has to be litigated, meaning it has to go to trial, I like to think that I'm your man.
Okay, so you're covering pretty much all the bases.
Almost everything that can...
Except divorce.
That has to be litigated. No.
You do divorce too?
I'm involved in a very complicated, extensive, painstaking divorce in the Stanford courts right now. My office handles simple divorces. I usually do personally more complicated ones.
Meaning there's more money or there's children or there's something not...
There's some kind of issue that's involved that cannot be resolved by a simple discussion or 2 or 3, but is so contentious that it has to be argued in court and decided by a neutral third party.
Okay, you just made a good point because my first question before I ask you this question is, I'm not going to use the word criminal because you take that off the table, the person accused of the crime. Have they, over the years, now you've been practicing law for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Okay. Have they become more violent? Has the crime become more violent? Or is the public aware of the true violence that's going in our country today?
Oh, I think there is almost an exponential increase in violence. And I guess the example I would give you, when I first started practicing law, it was a 3-tier court system: a circuit court, court of common pleas, and a superior court. Superior court now there's only 1-tier court system. Superior court is Part A and Part B. I'm going to reference the criminal side. Anyway, I don't want to digress too far about the system. So in the days when Superior Court took care of the felony cases.
Felony meaning what?
Felony meaning anything punishable by more than a year in prison.
Okay.
So the serious crimes. Your question was about how much violence as compared to now.
Well, I'm just thinking, years ago I was born and brought up in Waterbury, and I mean, there were crimes, of course, but now you hear the news or open the newspaper and it's normal, and deaths and shootings.
In those days, if you could count in a year, well, you wouldn't need a hand to count the murder cases. You'd go over to court and there would be 5 or 10 or 12 or 15 felony cases on the entire docket. An assault in the first degree, a robbery. Rape was nearly unheard of to see it on the docket. Oh yeah, that all came incrementally over the years, and now it's as commonplace as cornflakes. I think cornflakes is still commonplace.
I like cornflakes.
Yeah, okay. But it's commonplace now, yeah. And of course, the sociologists and the economists and observers of contemporary society all have their reasons. Excessive violence in the movies, excessive violence in video games, the culture that breeds violence. I think it's much more complicated than that, although I think those factors do have a role. But I think that's a whole program. It's actually more than a whole program.
I'm sure it's a whole lecture.
Yeah.
Now, how do you feel? Again, I mean, you're an expert, and I will say expert. I'm not making fun with the super. I'm very impressed with that.
No,
I am very impressed, and I'm sure you should be as well. But again, there are many, many people out there. This is Timmy Moynahan, ladies and gentlemen, who practices law in the city of Waterbury at the Moriarty Building right downtown, and has been part of the Waterbury scene for a very, very long time. So you've seen almost everything, I'm sure. Yes. Almost everything. I don't want to say everything, because God knows there might be something coming up that we don't know.
I've been around long enough to have seen a lot.
Okay.
That's fair enough.